Have you ever been so broken that even your own reflection felt like a stranger? This story isn't about the man who cheated, it's about the woman who refused to stay broken. In the calm cities of Denmark, she lost everything she thought she needed, only to find everything she truly was. Through heartbreak, silence, and slow English words, she rebuilt her life, one breath, one sentence, one sunrise at a time. The shock. It was just another quiet morning in Copenhagen. The air smelled of coffee and rain, and she was humming a soft tune while waiting for her toast to pop. Nothing seemed unusual, until her phone buzzed. One message. One photo. One truth she was never ready to see. Her boyfriend, the man she trusted with her whole heart, was holding another woman's hand, her breath caught in her chest. For a moment, everything froze. The coffee stopped steaming, the clock stopped ticking, and even the birds outside seemed to go silent. Have you ever felt that kind of silence? The kind that screams louder than words. She dropped her phone. Not because it slipped, but because her body didn't know what else to do. It was like her brain had unplugged itself from reality. The betrayal didn't come with fire or rage. It came with numbness, a kind of emotional frost that made her feel nothing and everything at the same time. In psychology, this moment is called emotional shock. When your brain faces something too painful, it tries to protect you. Your body releases adrenaline, your mind shuts down parts of awareness, and suddenly, you're not really there. You move, you breathe, but you feel like a ghost in your own body. She sat on the couch, staring at the wall. Her heart whispered, "It's not real," while her mind whispered, "It's over." The two voices fought quietly inside her. Minutes turned into hours. The toast burned. The coffee went cold. She didn't move. Later that day, she walked to the window and saw the world continuing like nothing happened. People biking to work, kids laughing, clouds moving. How unfair, she thought, that the world keeps spinning when your world just stopped. But somewhere deep inside, a smaller voice, fragile but real, said, "Maybe this is where it begins." Because sometimes, the moment everything breaks, is the first crack of light that lets you see yourself again. The empty apartment. That evening, the apartment felt bigger than ever, like the walls had stretched, the air had thickened, and the silence had learned how to breathe. Every corner whispered his name. The dent on the couch. The half-empty bottle of shampoo. The jacket he forgot to take. Everything was proof of something that no longer existed. She sat by the window, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one, and for the first time in years, she realized she was completely alone. But not the peaceful kind of alone. This was the kind that echoes. The kind that makes your own breathing sound too loud. Loneliness, psychologists say, isn't just the absence of people, it's the absence of connection. And that night, even her reflection in the glass window looked like a stranger. She tried to distract herself. She turned on the TV, but the voices felt too fast, too loud. She opened her phone, but every message felt like a reminder of what was gone. Finally, she opened a notebook, blank, untouched, and wrote 3 words in English. "I feel lost." The words looked small, fragile, almost embarrassing. But somehow, they were true. And saying them in English made her feel a little less trapped. Maybe because English wasn't the language of her pain. It was a place she could hide, a way to breathe. She whispered the words out loud, slowly, "I feel lost." Her own voice surprised her. It was soft, shaky, but real. She repeated it again. And again. Each time slower, clearer, as if she were talking to a friend who needed to understand her completely, and that was the moment something shifted. She wasn't just a woman crying in an empty apartment anymore. She was someone speaking, learning, surviving, all at once. Outside, the rain began to fall again, tapping gently on the glass like it was trying to answer her. Maybe, she thought, this silence isn't here to punish me. Maybe it's here to help me listen to myself. Talking to herself. Days passed, and the silence in the apartment started to sound less cruel, more like a strange kind of company. She began speaking to herself, first in whispers, then in full sentences. It wasn't planned. It just happened. Maybe because when no one else listens, you start learning how to listen to yourself. At first, it was just random phrases. Good morning. How are you today? Don't forget your coffee. Small, simple English sentences, the kind she once practiced but never really used. They echoed through the kitchen, the hallway, the bathroom mirror. It felt awkward, even silly. But soon she realized something fascinating. When she spoke English to herself, her pain felt softer. The words created distance, like she could observe her sadness instead of drowning in it. I am sad, she said slowly one morning. But I am still here. That's the power of language. Psychologists call it linguistic detachment. When you describe your emotions in a second language, your brain processes them differently, with less intensity, more clarity. It's like translating heartbreak into something your mind can manage. She started using English as her emotional armor. Each sentence became a step toward healing. I can start again. I can breathe. I will be okay. It wasn't just practice, it was therapy disguised as conversation. And in that gentle rhythm of English, she found something she hadn't felt in a while: control. Her voice grew stronger. Her pronunciation clearer. Her confidence, tiny but real, began to return. Every time she spoke, she wasn't just learning a language, she was rebuilding her identity. One afternoon, while practicing aloud, she caught her reflection smiling slightly. It was the first time she'd seen that in weeks. And for a brief second, she thought, maybe I'm not broken. Maybe I'm just becoming someone new. A stranger's smile. A week later, she finally stepped outside. The sky above Aarhus was pale blue, soft like watercolor. She walked without a plan, past bakeries smelling of cinnamon, past couples laughing too loudly, past memories she was ready to forget. Her steps were slow, uncertain, but they were hers. She stopped at a small cafe near the canal, the kind with warm lights and quiet music. Ordering felt strange. Her voice hadn't spoken to anyone in days. When the barista asked, "What can I get for you?" she froze for half a second before whispering, "A cappuccino, please." The words came out gentle but clear. And just like that, she felt something, a tiny spark of confidence. Speaking English again, not to herself this time, but to the world, she sat by the window with her cup, watching the rain return. That's when it happened. A man at the next table smiled at her. Not the flirty kind of smile. Just warm, kind, human. "Cold day, huh?" he said in slow English. She nodded, surprised at how easy it was to answer. "Yes, but the coffee helps." They talked about the weather, about travel, about nothing special. Yet somehow, it felt like everything. Because for the first time since her heartbreak, she wasn't defined by it. She was just talking. Being. Existing in another language, another moment, another version of herself. That there's something magical about speaking with strangers. Neuroscientists say social connection releases oxytocin, the trust hormone. It softens pain, quiets fear, reminds your brain that you belong somewhere. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, even if it's with someone you'll never see again. When she left the cafe, she didn't remember the man's name. But she remembered the feeling. The warmth of that brief conversation lingered in her chest long after. Maybe healing, she thought, doesn't always come from deep talks or grand gestures. Sometimes it starts with a simple smile, and the courage to say, "Hello," again. Learning to breathe again. The next morning, she woke up before sunrise. The apartment was still, wrapped in that soft Danish light that makes everything look honest, even the things you've tried to hide. She sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket, and whispered her first English sentence of the day, "I am still here." Her voice was calm, steady, almost peaceful. She had started a new ritual. Every morning, she would breathe deeply, speak slowly, and listen to her own English words fill the room. It wasn't about grammar or perfection anymore. It was about rhythm, the rhythm of being alive again. Breathing, it turns out, is deeply connected to emotion. Studies in psychology show that slow, intentional breathing signals the brain to calm down, lowering stress hormones like cortisol. When she spoke English while breathing slowly, her words didn't just sound clearer, they felt clearer. She began to combine breath and speech, turning language practice into healing practice. Inhale. I am strong. Exhale. I can let go. Each sentence became a small act of defiance against the past, a promise that she was no longer stuck there. Sometimes she recorded herself speaking, then played it back later. The first few times, she cringed, her accent, her pauses, her uncertainty. But then she noticed something else. Every day, her voice carried a little more light. More confidence. More life. She started to love that sound, her sound. The way her English wrapped around her Danish thoughts, soft but certain. It reminded her that she was building something new, word by word, breath by breath. One afternoon, as the golden light slipped through the window, she caught herself laughing, for no reason. Just laughing, softly, at how strange and beautiful it was to be alive. Maybe, she thought, healing isn't about forgetting. Maybe it's about learning how to breathe, in a new language, in a new life, with a heart that finally feels its own rhythm again. Rebuilding routine. Healing, she realized, wasn't a single moment of clarity. It was a collection of small, ordinary choices. Every morning, she began with the same simple ritual: open the window, make coffee, play a slow English podcast, and whisper along with the words. It wasn't much, but it was hers. The first few days, she could barely focus. Her mind drifted, replaying old scenes she didn't want to remember. But she kept going, listening, repeating, writing new words on yellow sticky notes. She stuck them on the fridge, the mirror, even the kettle. Words like hope, begin, breathe, strong. Neuroscience calls this habit rewiring. When you create new routines after trauma, your brain literally starts building new neural pathways. The more she practiced, the easier it became to stay in the present, not in the memories. Every evening, she would take a walk through her neighborhood, headphones in, English phrases playing softly. She'd repeat them under her breath, matching her steps to the rhythm of each sentence. I am learning. Step. I am growing. Step. I am free. Step. It wasn't just language practice anymore. It was meditation in motion. Each phrase anchored her to something real, to the steady beat of her footsteps, to the sound of her own determination. Soon, she noticed small changes. The coffee tasted better. The mornings felt lighter. Even her posture shifted, less collapsed, more open. She started replying in English to podcasts, to cashiers, to strangers. Not perfectly, but confidently enough, and one night, as she sat writing her English journal, she caught herself smiling at a thought. I'm not rebuilding who I was. I'm building who I was meant to be. Sometimes, healing doesn't look like fireworks or tears. Sometimes it's just you, a cup of coffee, a quiet room, and the courage to say, out loud, clearly, I'm still learning. A letter to the past. One Sunday morning, she decided to write. Not just random thoughts this time, a letter. She brewed her coffee, sat by the window where the Danish light poured in like forgiveness, and wrote at the top of the page, "Dear me." She hesitated. The words felt heavy at first. How do you write to the version of yourself who trusted the wrong person? Who cried until sleep became a form of escape? But she took a deep breath and began, in English, not Danish. It wasn't her first language, but maybe that was the point. English gave her space to say what she never could before. Dear me, you did nothing wrong. You loved. You believed. You tried. And when everything fell apart, you still got up. You didn't need to be perfect, you just needed to stay. The more she wrote, the lighter her chest felt. English made it easier. It softened the emotions, turned them into something she could finally face. She wasn't rewriting the past. She was releasing it. Psychologists call this expressive writing therapy. When you translate your emotions into structured language, especially in another tongue, your brain reorganizes the chaos of memory. Pain becomes story. Story becomes meaning. Meaning becomes peace. She ended the letter with trembling hands but a steady heart. I forgive you, not because he deserves it, but because you do. You deserve peace, freedom, and laughter again. She folded the paper, placed it in a small box, and whispered softly, "Thank you." It wasn't goodbye to him. It was goodbye to the version of herself who kept waiting for him to return, and as she spoke those final words aloud, slowly, clearly, her voice didn't shake anymore. It rang gentle and strong, like someone who had finally come home, to herself. The freedom within. Weeks later, something had changed, not in the world outside, but inside her. The apartment no longer felt empty, it felt hers. The silence no longer hurt, it healed. She didn't check her phone anymore. She didn't replay old conversations. Instead, she listened to new ones, English stories, soft music, the gentle rhythm of her own breath. One morning, she stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "I forgive." Then she smiled, a real one, not the polite kind people wear to hide pain. She realized that freedom doesn't arrive with grand gestures or revenge. It comes quietly, when you stop needing answers. Language had become her bridge. From heartbreak to healing, from confusion to clarity. Every English sentence she practiced was more than a sound. It was a declaration. I'm alive, I'm learning, I'm enough. There's a psychological truth behind this. When we shift our focus from what we lost to what we're creating, the brain releases dopamine, the motivation chemical. That's why progress, even tiny progress, feels like joy. It's not the end of pain, it's the rebirth of purpose. She began helping others online, posting short English videos for beginners. Simple, calm, healing. "If I can learn again," she said in one clip, "so can you." Her voice reached people far away, and in helping them, she realized she'd finally helped herself. One evening, as the Danish sky turned gold, she walked by the canal, the same place where she once felt invisible. Now, the air tasted like freedom. She whispered one last sentence into the breeze. "He cheated, but I found myself." And for the first time, she didn't feel broken. She felt whole.